You're listening to the Sketchnote Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Rohde, the author of the Sketchnote Handbook and the Sketchnote Workbook, and this is the podcast where I chat with sketchnoters and visual thinkers and try to understand what makes them tick. Hey everyone, it's Mike Rohde, and I'm here for another episode of All the Tips. This one for Season 1 of the Sketchnote Podcast. As some of you long-term listeners may know, this podcast used to be called the Sketchnote Army Podcast. But with my focus on Sketchnote Lab this year, I've made a shift. We put Sketchnote Army into archive mode, and you can go and check that out. All the archives are still there for you at sketchnotearmy.com, but my efforts and energy are all going toward the Sketchnote Lab, which is where this podcast landed as well. And along with that move, made a decision to rebrand it and simplify, I think, almost everything about the podcast, renaming it to just the Sketchnote Podcast, and inviting, of course, the same really high quality, interesting guests to the show. And one of the most popular things that we've learned from the podcast over the last 5 years or so is that the All the Tips episode is really popular with people. Getting to hear all the tips from all the guests, or most of the guests, in one single episode with a little inspirational music is just a great way to kind of wrap up the season. It's also a great episode to listen to if you're ever bummed out and you just need a little pick-me-up, to hear how regular people, use visual thinking in their everyday lives and where they've come from, so often not from the places you might expect. So it's always one of my favorite episodes to create too, because I know it's so well received by you who are listening or maybe watching this final episode of Season 1 of the Sketchnote Podcast. So one thing I want to mention before I go is if you like this podcast, definitely check out Sketchnote Lab. You can go to sketchnotelab.com and you can see all the work that I'm doing there. Typically do a monthly dispatch where I collect 5 really interesting links that I've seen in the last month, along with everything that's happened or coming up at Sketchnote Lab. We do monthly workshops, live workshops on Zoom, so that's always really great if you want to join and do some active work with a small community and with me on a Zoom call. That's really great. And of course, it's recorded, so if you're a member, you get access to all those recordings, and you can go back and look back and see all of them. And then finally, I do additional posts on Sketchnote Lab for different things that I'm encountering, anything I'm discovering. If I'm working on a project and I want to share it, it's a great place to see all the work that I'm up to over at Sketchnote Lab. And you can become a paid partner of the lab starting at $10 a month, or you can go $80 for the entire year. If you want to be a founding member, you can do that for $200 a year, and that includes once a year, 1 hour session with me, a coaching session, every year that you continue to be a founding member at the $200 level. And we can work on projects together and focus on specific custom challenges that you need some guidance, some coaching on. So that is my pitch for you. I would love for you to join me, sign up for free and see what we're doing over there. And I would love to have you become a paid lab partner and be part of the fun and get access to all the benefits that lab partners get. So with that, this wraps up another episode of the podcast. So here we go. Without further ado, here are our guests with their tips. Danny Gregory.
Well, I think the tips I was going to give are broader, but they could certainly be applied to this.
Okay.
So the first one, ironically, it's into exactly what you just said, which is to embrace constraints. You know, I think we're so used to, particularly if you're a creative professional, you're used to having constraints on what your ideas are. You know, You have a strategy, you have a brief, you have a client, you have this and that. So you work within that box. You know, I think a lot of times when people come to me and they say, "Oh, what should I draw? Like, I'd love to draw, but I don't know what to draw." And they think that they're supposed to be like making, some art. So like, what is that supposed to be about? But I think if you try and find constraints, and the constraints could be just draw a certain way. You could say, I'm only going to, I'm going to go to Paris, but I'm only going to draw, I don't know, what things I eat, and I'm only going to draw food. where you could say, I'm only going to take 2 colored pencils with me. And everything I do is going to be just using those 2 colored pencils. Or you could say, I'm only going to use materials that I find in Paris along the way. So when you have a constraint, that I think stretches your mind to solve the problem. You've created your own problem, and then it's much more interesting. And I think, when you look at look at Impressionism, for instance, or look at lots of great art works within constraints. And, I think that's also aesthetically, I find that really appealing, because I think when you think about lots of different ways to solve the same problem, it's like the old kind of like, how do you drop a light bulb off a building kind of design exercise that we all got in high school, and protect an egg from, I forget what it was, right? How do you, when you work within that and you try and think of lots of things. And I really like this exercise of exercising your imagination by giving yourself a list of 10 things, and saying, you start by saying, I'm going to come up with 10 lists of 10 things, 10 topics for 10 lists. So the first topic might be, 10 ways to drop an egg off a building. And the next topic might be 10 things I could cook with radishes. And the next thing is 10 people I'd like to have dinner with who were dead. 10, and you just have a list so you make a list of 10 things. And then the next day, and this is literally something you can do every day. The next day you take 10 things, 10 people I want to have dinner with, and you come up with 10 things, And so doing those kinds of things, if you do that every day for a year, that means you'll have come up with 3,650 ideas. And there might be 5 really good ideas in there, and you could just spend 5 minutes doing that, as you're brushing your teeth or whatever. So to me, having constraints really stretches you. I also like the idea of having, as a part of this, is having personal projects. So I've had lots of different kinds of personal projects. Like when I first got Procreate, I decided that I wanted to get to know Procreate, and I didn't want to do a lot of courses or whatever. I just decided I'm going to give myself an assignment. Every day on Instagram, I'm going to post, for 100 days, I'm going to post a different drawing of a dog, a different kind of dog, and a different way of drawing that dog. And I'm going to do that for 100 days. And so I did that, and I did all kinds of things, styles, cartooning and oil painting and all the great things you can do with Procreate. And I learned how to use Procreate really well during those 100 days. I learned how to draw dogs well. I learned how to kind of come up with ideas, because each one was a different idea. And my thing was just I'm going to spend 15 minutes doing each one, 20 minutes, whatever it is. It's quick, get it up on Instagram, move on. I'm just doing it. And the reason I included Instagram was because it was another constraint, which is, I have an obligation to do it. Not that anybody cared or was paying attention, but for me, it was don't want to break my streak. So I did it for 100 days, and that was really helpful. But I think there's just a lot of projects that are, I drew my same teacup, the same pen every single day for an entire sketchbook's worth of thing while I was waiting for the kettle to boil. I had a sketchbook that I kept next to the tea kettle. And then I would put the kettle on, wait for pour the tea, wait for it to steep. The whole thing would take, 6 minutes. And I would draw my teacup each time. Sometimes the same way, sometimes a different way. So having things like this it's fun. It has no particular purpose, but something might come out of it. Projects can turn into things, but that's not why you're doing it. And it's just a way of channeling what you're doing. So that would be my first tip, is constraints and projects.
I like that.
My second thought is plateaus. I think that if you draw a lot, after a year, sometimes longer, you will hit a plateau, where you're just not getting any better. You had this incredible run when you first were learning, but now if you look at what you drew 6 months ago and you look at what we're drawing now, it's kind of the same. You're kind of doing it the same way, and basically you're getting better and better at the same thing, but your brain isn't really growing because there's no more challenge anyway, And I think about it in terms of, exercise, the same things happen if you're like lift weights or run or whatever. You just kind of get to this point and then you're just doing it. And I think the danger with that is you will fall off the plateau. Your enthusiasm for doing it is changed. So I think that an important way of getting across that plateau, getting back to getting better, is beginner's mind. So beginner's mind is what allows you to really take off. So what I suggest is like, try something that you are really uncomfortable with doing. It might be subject matter that you never like to draw. It may be a tool that you've never used before. It may be looking at some artists who are very different from you and really like studying what they do and maybe doing some, try to draw in their style. But whatever you can do to snap that default way you have of doing things will help you to grow into a different thing. And I do this thing called Draw With Me, which is a weekly live stream on YouTube. I've been doing it for 6 years now. And every week, we draw something really different. And sometimes we draw one thing, and sometimes I've done as many as 40 things in an hour. Sometimes we draw people, we draw animals, we draw things from our imaginations, we draw things from photo reference, we do lettering, we do all kinds of stuff. But my objective in doing all of this is to stretch myself and to stretch the people who come, and to just say like, here are things, because everybody will say, I never thought I could draw X, and I can't believe that I did it. And a lot of what I do is I really move fast. I'm like, going, and I'm not waiting for you. You're going to keep up with me. And if I have photo reference, it's going to, if you haven't taken a screenshot, you're out of luck. And I'm amazed at how people can do it. People can they can learn to draw really quickly, and they can draw really weird things. And we draw upside down sometimes. We draw with our non-dominant hand sometimes, do watercolor, all kinds of things. And then at the beginning of each show, we show all of the things that people drew and posted from the week before. So you get to see like all the different things. So to me, again, that's, if you're just feeling like, I'm just not getting any better, try something like this, or come join me on YouTube. Yeah. But, and just get over yourself, get off what you're good at, and get bad at something. Get bad, and then you will, shake it up. So that's my second thought. And then the third thought is, I don't like the word practice, And I think a lot of times we're like, well, I really got to practice and I should practice. And I like on that one. Yeah. I think it's like, I think of practice, and I think when it comes to drawing practice is really bad. It's like drawing an egg or drawing, putting the light, shading. This is like a horrible thing. So I don't know. Maybe it's because I didn't go to art school, but every time I sat down to teach myself and I would open a book on like how to draw, I didn't want to do it. So I like the idea of thinking of practice the way lawyers think of practice, or doctors think of practice, or yoga instructors think of practice. It's just a thing that you do. And what you're doing is you're practicing the thing you do. Not because you're doing exercises, but because you're applying it. That's what practice really means. It's you're practicing what you preach. You're practicing what you've learned. You're applying it. And so I think to think about like, what can you do so that instead of trying to learn fundamentals, but maybe you do want to learn fundamentals, but you're applying them in some way. So if you say, I want to like get better at drawing noses, well, then fill a whole sketchbook with portraits of people with big noses. Make it something else, but don't just draw like grids and cubes and, all that stuff.
Doesn't apply to anything necessarily, right?
It's terrible. And people who are first learning to draw, that's where they start. It's like learning chopsticks. I don't want to play chopsticks. Nobody wants to play chopsticks, right? You want to play songs. So great, go and do that. You'll be bad at it, but keep going and then you'll get good at it. But it's really like keeping it interesting, keeping it varied. Those are the things that I think push you forward. So those are my 3 tips.
That's interesting.
Constraints and projects is one. Plateaus and beginner's mind, and then variety. That's kind of 2. And then the third one is practice, redefined practice for yourself.
Yeah. It's interesting when you talk about that, the way you describe practice, it's almost like you're putting yourself in a plateau, right? If you think of it that way, because you've not got this thing you're not that interested in, but you feel like you have to do it. That sounds like plateau to me.
Yeah.
And then, but the solution that you offer, I think of it like I tie personal projects with practice, like the doing, is like, I want to learn how to draw noses. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find out who are the most interesting people in history who had big noses.
Exactly.
I'm going to find pictures and draw them and then tell their story and make it into a personal project of big nose people or whatever, just to, like, I feel like when I do any kind of work, like sometimes it's best when I have a project where I have to use the tool that I don't want to use to force me to learn how to use the tool, right? Maybe it's going to take a little bit longer, but by the end of it, then I'll have a better sense of the tool and how it works.
But also, I think if you apply the tool to something that you are interested in, so you can form a linkage between them. So like for me, there were things about Procreate that were like, I could do lots of tutorials about it, but I like dogs, and I like the idea of that challenge. And so then I was applying the tool, so it became painless, and I wasn't constantly failing at it, which is, I think, another thing that becomes really painful.
It becomes secondary, like the learning Procreate's almost secondary to the project itself and the doing the dogs. And I think the other thing I like is you're kind of overlapping. Like, I want to learn Procreate and I like dogs and I'm going to challenge myself. So you're sort of doing this overlapping activity so that it's not one thing, it's like 3 things at once. So
and related to that is like life drawing classes. Like, I've gone to life drawing classes at various points, and a lot of times I'll get to the point where I'm like, why am I spending 3 hours drawing this naked person? I don't know. Like, what's the point? Like, what am I going to do with this? And, and also this way of drawing, spending 3 hours doing a single person and drawing them with charcoal or whatever, like, it has nothing to do with anything that I want to do. It is kind of fun to spend 3 hours in a concerted way drawing, but I often would feel like, okay, I have all these drawings that I've done. They're just like, I think I could find a better way of spending 3 hours drawing. So, and I know that not everybody feels that way, and life drawing is great and all those things. But for me, it's just like getting to know yourself, but not giving up. Just modifying it so that you find a way of continuing to draw that fits with your way of, seeing the world, the kinds of things you like to do, the amount of time you have to do it in, all that stuff. Keep it fun.
Sarah Greer and Adrienne Purrier.
For me, I would say the first one is being able to navigate the shitties. And this is a crazy little term we heard about. We did a Pixar course a while back and decided to make a movie about a talking piano. That was not an easy thing to do because it's an inanimate object. And like, how do you make it smile and talk and do all those things? But the shitties is like something that I love it because it's just, I've noticed I've been doing creative things all my life. And the creative process is like it's a little bit of a roller coaster. And when you hit that downside, it's like just hang in there, and go for a walk or do something, because it's like always darkest before the dawn, and you're going to get out of the shitties. Just know that that's part of the process. And so that would be kind of my first one. And it doesn't matter if the project is like a one-day thing or it takes a year, you're going to go through that loop. The second one for me is challenge yourself often. Like for me, it was getting an iPad. I'd always just done things live and on boards, and I got the iPad. I trial by fire. I think a week after having it, we were doing something here. And then a couple weeks later, I'm like on vacation doing orals for a big tech company on my iPad, like live in the meeting. And I just forced myself. I threw myself into the deep end. And I just recently, I had been really curious about mental canvas and got working with that and just did that the other day. Mental canvas, it's great, but it's really hard and it's kind of, that's challenging. So challenge yourself. And I think the last one for me is just don't be afraid to go. Just find inspiration outside of your daily practice. So go to museums, go to plays, go to musicals, go to shows, get the fresh eyes, because you can come back to it. And you've for me, it's like crawling around on the floor playing with my grandson. I'm looking at the world at a different level. So those are my three.
Love that. My three are, Mike, you inspired me for the first one, which is when you talked about grabbing that space, that room, and creating it. I would say, if anyone out there is wanting to do more, set the environment up right for yourself. Figure out what will work for you, that will get you and others into flow state more often, create more productivity, allow you to be more creative. That would be the first thing. The second is personal. Sarah's an artist by background. I started as a therapist, and so we combine. I would say, try and embrace and find your wise mind every day. Try and be balanced. Try and be level, and check your ego at the door. Don't know what the journey towards that is. I for years, Sarah did yoga and I didn't, and I was like, and she talked about doing yoga, and I now do yoga, inspired by Sarah, and it's the single best thing for helping me start each day in that mode than anything else. But you'll figure it out. But the third is connected to that, and it's different. It's like it never goes according to plan, and particularly us as humans, we always sometimes feel strong emotions, and I always say to people, just remember, emotions are a wave; it will pass. So figure out under pressure when you're feeling like it didn't go work, pause, and it will get better. It will pass.
Well, those are great. Well, we got 6 tips for the price of one in this podcast. I love it. David Armano.
Well, ironically, I found myself in a little bit of a rut, a couple of times, and I'm doing the thing that you're probably reading articles about telling you not to do, but which is don't use your AI as your therapist or even your career coach. And here's why they tell you that, because absolutely AI is sycophantic. And will absolutely tell you what you want to hear as a default. But I will say this, I've learned you can push it. If you're really, really clear with it, it's kind of the same thing of I get what I want. It's the same thing. It's I get what I want in my visuals. I have been using, and it's not the only thing. I mean, I talk to my wife and, whatever, sure. So you obviously you feel but I will say I have had pretty good luck with AI helping me get unstuck. And I can even compare it. There's at one point I work with a career coach, real accomplished guy who was just building his hours. And I'm like, I'll sign up to be, and it was great. But I'm even comparing that experience to sort of now getting stuck, and now I don't have access to a human career coach. And I find myself yesterday I did something that I got some counsel on from my AI, and I was like, okay, that was really good. That was actually good. I have to be really selective. So I would say, if you feel confident that you know yourself well enough that you could get what you want out of it, that could be one thing. The second is, I was just talking to, Anne Hanley?
No, I don't know her.
Oh, she's an author. We had just had a great conversation about intentionality, and I was talking about how I went from the shift from using my iPad to even just getting a scribe to just pare back. For me, I didn't need the iPad because I didn't want to again, I have to develop this process, but going to a scribe has been helping me. It feels like paper, a Remarkable. Gives me the best worlds of digital and analog, and strips it down to where I feel like I could be more intentional with it versus an iPad. But I think anything that you can do, that's an example in the visual thinking, but even just going for walks and giving yourself the breaks. I think our number one nemesis these days is just all the technology and distractions that take away from our ability to be intentional with our time.
Yeah.
ironically,
and present, probably, right?
Yeah, ironically, you're hearing this from engineers, but it's not just engineers. It's like when you'll find in vibe coding or in working with AI, it moves so fast. It's almost, I had another revelation about this. It almost acts as like another, like if you're in Slack too long or you're like multitasking, you're not in flow, that you can when you're spending time like multitasking with AIs and doing all these different things, it almost puts you in a state of what is this, the opposite of flow?
I think I've read an article. There was an article I read about this last week called "It puts you in brain fry," where your brain basically gets fried and you have to step away.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So you have to be mindful about that. That's now another thing that we have to deal with, like this brain fry versus being in flow. Yeah. I mean, if I were just to sort of distill it down to one thing, I would say, out of all of this, or maybe two things, figure out ways where you can be intentional about all these new emerging tools, and then find ways to be memorable, experiential, distinct, find ways that you can own it and really lean into. Like, it's great that we're doing a podcast as a remote. I think there's so many awesome things, but you know what? When you, like, if there's opportunity where we meet in person, or,
it's different. Yeah.
Like that's a really, it's more important than it's ever been.
Yeah. Yep. I think I've been feeling the same way, leaning into in-person and human things that you're talking about here. And that definitely helps. We work in tech, both of us. So it's real easy to kind of get seduced into just staying there. Yeah. But I think you have to push yourself out.
Andrew Tan.
I think the first one I listed here is that to practice drawing spontaneously directly with a pen. I was also teaching a comic class on diary comics, and so I was encouraging I was teaching kids and just like go directly with the pen. And especially because a diary comic or maybe a sketch note it feels like it's more of a spontaneous diary. You don't pre-plan your diary, you just let it flow out. So a pen prevents you from overthinking or over-editing. You're just there, and whatever mistakes is there, you just cancel it or you just leave it there. It looks more charming, looks more honest, and I like that. So, and it trains my confidence, I must say, after using a pen directly. Okay. Then the second one, I guess, my second one I thought is, okay, this is more of a little, I don't know whether it's nitpicking, but sometimes when I see a lot of illustrations by other artists, or fellow artists, but I'm not going to say any names, but sometimes they tend to forget the dark parts. They do a lot of midtones and outlines, and I feel then it's like, it's complete. But I find that adding the black parts to add more contrast, especially where the focus areas are, that's quite essential to at least allow the reader to focus in on the important parts. So it's adding a bit of black area to the important parts. For example, if I'm drawing a person, like drawing you on my, drawing you, your face, I'll find something that's black. Like, for example, your hat's black. So I'll make the hat blacker, like darker, like almost solid black.
Really stand out.
Earphones. Or your eyes, I'll make it darker instead of things. So at least something stands out. If everything is just outlines and grays, it just feels like it's very
no contrast
hard to focus on, and I feel like my brain works harder when I look at it. When I look at a whole page of like words and outlines and midtones, it's hard to focus on things. And okay, the last one is give yourself license to be distorted or imperfect. So I learned that for myself because remember I didn't go to art school, so I had to tell myself things. So I think one of the things that It was like giving myself little permissions as I draw. If not, I'll keep beating myself over small little mistakes and redoing a sketch. Especially, maybe it came from my storyboarding days. It's like if I make a small mistake, I feel like erasing it or undoing it or something. Because I actually use pen to draw my storyboards. And I find like if I keep erasing, I'll never get the job done. So it's like I had to tell myself, okay, just give myself permission. If it's a bit distorted, if it's a bit off, just leave it. And I found that actually, I don't know, it helped me to draw better. And sometimes it looks nice. The imperfections look nice. So I think
it makes it human.
Yourself license to do that. Yeah.
Those are 3 great tips. Wow.
Tabitha Walker.
My top piece of advice. There is no right or wrong way to do this work. Everybody has their own unique way of processing information and transferring that to whether it's a journal or a chart or an iPad or whatever it is. Everybody has their own unique way of doing that, and there's no, oh well, you didn't draw the stick guy like that, so that means it's wrong. No. We all have our own unique style, and that's what I think makes this work so special, is that you put a piece of yourself into it. So the way you sketchnote won't look like the way I sketchnote, won't look like the way somebody else does it, and they're all valid and they're all good pieces of work. And so I noticed this when I first started getting into graphic recording, and I would go to classes and people were worried, oh, did I do it right? Or, oh, I didn't draw the little person the way the instructor said. Like, it's a stick figure. We know what it is. And you wrote something and we can read it. Like, that's right. It's not wrong.
Yeah.
So don't be concerned with like, oh, am I doing it right? Like, just start.
Yeah.
That's number one. The second one is it's important to practice to find your own unique style. And it's okay if your style changes over time. The way my work looks now is not the same as it looked 10 years ago or even 5 years ago. It's going to morph, it's going to evolve, and that's also okay. And number 3, kind of along the same lines, like, it's okay if your work doesn't look like other people's work. It's common to see like people who are at the forefront in this field and think, oh, my recording has to look like that.
Just like that, yeah.
And it doesn't. And if you want to do, only work in black and white, for example, or grayscale, or only work in color, or write in all caps, or write in cursive, or whatever, it's your unique style. So don't feel like you have to dim your light to try to fit in with how other people are doing it.
That's great.
Yeah. So those are my top 3. There's no right or wrong way. Practice, practice, practice. Find your own unique style. And it's okay if your work does not look like other people's work.
It's good when it doesn't, because then it becomes your work, which is important.
Exactly. And then people will know, especially if you want to make a name for yourself or go do this as either a side business or a main business or at your actual day job, when they see a piece of work that you do, they'll know, oh, that's a Mike piece, or oh, that's a Tabitha piece. Like, they'll know.
Right. Yeah, I spot it all the time when I look online. I can tell when somebody I know has done the work. Their style really does speak out, especially if they practice, because they've kind of honed the style in a good way, which is cool.
And that's not to say that you can't allow yourself to be influenced by other people. It doesn't mean that you can't maybe copy what somebody else has done, but you can adapt it and make it your own. And I think that's how this field will continue to progress. It's like we're all learning from each other and building off each other and taking inspiration from each other.
Adam Brum.
I think the first thing that comes to mind is, and depending on if we're kind of talking about sketchnoting versus art, when it comes to art, and maybe this applies to some sketchnoting too, where like I actually, maybe it does. Actually, let me just see what I was going to say. Just like the filtering that happens, it's like just kind of let it go. Try not to have a filter, and I think it's easier said than done, especially when I'm doing headers and kind of text-based stuff in sketch notes. That's kind of where I get the most pause, and it's kind of like, all right, let's remember that the intention of this is not a piece of art. This is visual communication. This is for a certain purpose to recall. And by the act of doing it, we're already getting that. And so this is a note for those listening as well as myself to like continually try to like just let it flow. Just let it happen. And especially for me when I'm like sketchnoting something during a lecture or like someone is speaking live, it's kind of like if you're tripping over those little details, you're going to miss information. So get it out. And another tip I might recommend is, as I mentioned, kind of like the pencils versus pen, I've found that changing materials can be the difference. Okay, versus like, do you have the things that make it easy for you? Do you have the right size notebook that you're going to have paper on you, where it's like, I'll buy the nice moleskin ones and then I'll forget them because they're too big or whatever. So it's are you prepared? Are you making it easier for yourself? Do you have the brand of pens that like are satisfying to write with? And maybe that's relatable or not, but those are my tips because man, I like the Marvy Le Pen. That's like one of my go-tos where I can't fully explain why, but there's something really satisfying about those pens. And
haven't heard those in 10 years of doing this podcast. I don't think anyone has ever mentioned the Marvy Le Pen, but that's one that I've always liked too. I haven't used one for a long time. I need to dig those things up.
I get big packs on Amazon and I'll just give them to people when I see them. I usually have a bunch of them on me, but there's just something about those that are really satisfying. Yeah, I'm also a Micron. There you go. Micron 01, 03, and 8 are my go-tos. And then that's pretty much it for pens.
Pretty simple toolkit.
Yeah.
Huh. I think the challenge with Marvy, which is something like the flares, the tips tend to get mushy pretty quickly because they're
oh my god,
felt tip. So you have to have a lot of them around because in different states. So sometimes you want the mushy tip, right? And then sometimes you want that crisp tip. And so you got to have like a couple across the spectrum depending on what you want it for. So, but I like those.
I'm just laughing because it's like favorites. It happens almost immediately with like the 01s, 02s, the like really fine ones. It's like I've ruined some of those on the first go. So definitely heavy-handed over
Interesting. Man, I haven't thought about those since I think college. I used to use them all the time because for some reason they were around. I liked them, but I just haven't. I have to dig them up on old Amazon. So we got some tools in here too. Check that out. Georgina Dean.
It's so true. And I'm so glad you said that. Just yesterday or the day before yesterday, I had to return something to Amazon. And normally nowadays, I don't know how it is in North America, but here in the UK, you can just show the QR code and they can scan it and return your parcel. But it was a different courier, like in every courier that had to pick it up, and I had to print a label. Anyway, so we didn't have a printer at home because we're mostly digital. So we ordered this cheap printer to have at home. And it took me like almost 3 hours to set up. And anybody listening to this who's like, what, she's a digital transformationist and she can't set up her printer except in 3 hours. It does sound funny, but hear me out. So turns out we had router issues. It was, so not to bore everybody with that, but I know that probably resonates with you, Mike, as a techie, but like the router was the reason it wasn't picking up the software through the Wi-Fi connection when we connected it in the back end. Anyway, long story short, I struggled, I got frustrated, and I was tempted several times to open my GPT and ask for the instructions. Now, this is a really interesting example. I chose not to because I was determined that I had enough intelligence to do this by myself as a techie, right? So I spent all the time, and finally after 3 hours, I knocked on my husband's office door and I was like, I'm really stuck. I can't figure this out. Anyway, he come over and he couldn't figure it out either. Then I felt much better because he's an actual engineer. And he was like, the little thing is ticking and it should be connecting, and it just wasn't. Anyway, randomly, after the fourth attempt, it did. Well, I finally went to my GPT after we got it connected to understand what had gone wrong.
Yeah.
Exactly. And sometimes that's what we call in education backwards by design, where we look at the end goal of a project, or perhaps it's unfortunately a goal on an exam they need to get to or something. And then you design your monthly planning, your unit planning, your weekly planning, your daily planning backwards from the end goal that you want to get to. And you want to match into each of those parts an experience that's going to help them remember. Well, trust me, I can't remember the last time I spent so much time trying to connect a printer ever in all my experiences, right? So I'll always remember that. But it's an interesting use case equally for AI, right? In that we don't always have to go to it first. It's important to have creative struggles sometimes. You don't always have to just choose to get the answer first. And the second interesting thing from the example, and this was the first time I'd ever done it just a couple days ago, but to share with everybody who's listening, is that once you've done the struggle, and you can ask it to help you understand what went wrong, or what can I take away, or what can I do to improve that process so that I can do it faster next time. It doesn't have to be just to give you the answer, but to help you analyze, you know?
Yeah. Like it's like having a tutor, an at-hand tutor in a sense. So if you were, those almost feel like tips. So I always do tips. I think you've given us 2 tips here, right? One is choose to work on, solve a problem, and then ask GPT or search online after when you've done the cracking of the problem, right? And the second one that you just offered, I don't know how to put that into words. Would you happen to have a third tip that you might offer in that context?
In the context, I would offer the same visually, and some people listening to your podcast episode may disagree with me, and I think that's healthy and that is okay, but I'd like to offer it as something that I believe is valuable for my own practice and may help others, is when you're stuck on trying to visualize an icon for something that you don't know in visual thinking, for example, try the creative struggle is important. So take a couple rounds, give yourself a 5-minute timer, try to sketch a couple of things like crazy 8s and product build. When you can't come up with it, you could use a GPT to ask you to give it advice on suggestions, but don't ask it to give you the images of it. You could ask it to give you the text so that it's not inputting the images into your mind. You're reading the words, and your imagination based on your learned context from your life experiences may help you visualize something. Did that make sense, or should I try to re-explain?
No, that's perfectly. I totally understand that you, rather than give me 10 icons, it's like, give me words for other metaphors that I could use for this concept. Okay, I didn't think about that concept. What would that look like? And then you draw it, and now it becomes more of a partnership, right? It's basically breaking through your lack of depth of knowledge around a metaphor and bringing others to mind that maybe you haven't thought of before, maybe ever. But then you still do the work of actually visualizing the thing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And a little bit like text, the other half of that tip is a little bit like text. So perhaps you may have written a story or an essay and you'd like the GPT to help you with your grammar and structures. It may be the same as an image. And this where some visual thinkers, sketchnote artists may disagree with me, and that's fine. Feel free. But you may input your own sketchnote into a GPT and ask it to give you feedback, a little bit like a coach or a mentor. So a little bit like me sending a sketchnote to Mike and say, Mike, could you give me some things that you'd like me to improve on? It's the same with a sketchnote. You're not asking the GPT to recreate your sketchnote. You're asking it for feedback, right? And so that could be an alternative way too. Just a little note on that for those who want to take my advice. Please remember your data. If you're going to put your sketchnote into a GPT like OpenAI that is not a lockdown enterprise version or a school version, then that will go into the training model. So just make sure before you decide to upload your data, including your own illustrations, that it is locked down for yourself if that's what you want.
Yeah, good. That's a good point.
Sophie Lang.
It feels to me that you're asking several things all jumbled into one. So I will try to, I will try to respond. And if I don't do it well enough, you let me know. But when I sent this to the publisher, I didn't think that this would happen. You know?
Okay.
So, or I thought maybe they have a project and I could illustrate. But I was very surprised when they said yes. They didn't say yes right away, but they did say that they are interested, and we started working together. And they were giving me feedback on how to reframe it so that it's ready to be pitched. And then they pitched it to colleagues, and then the whole company decided that they wanna take it on.
See.
And then from then on, the work is very similar to what I do for graphic recording, because the way that we do it is that for each book, for each subject, like so human body, dinosaurs, the next one is going to be the solar system. There is an expert who is giving me a text, like a summary of each subject. I'm using the original comics from Instagram that I posted. So, like vaccines, I did my research there, and there is it's a very basic, useful, good research. So there is no reason for the consultant to write again about vaccines, because that is already covered. But there were a lot of subjects that were not covered. And then for dinosaurs, which I had absolutely no clue about, they would give me a lot of facts. And then the way my mind works, maybe it's the same for you, maybe it's different, but when I read something, my mind is making these images in sketch notes already. So it's, in a way, the work is very easy because I just have it and I just need to draw it down. So in that respect, it's pretty similar than when I work for a client. Now, the difference here is that I have my personality, which is like this, and I can put that personality into this work much more than with a client. With a client, it's serious business, and oftentimes it's, like public policy or advocacy or those kind of stuff. They don't need my personality in that. They just need a visual summary, and that's fine. But here I can be funny. I want to be funny, and I'm really trying to be. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. But that's wonderful. It's such a thrill, because in a way I am this 7-year-old person who is just making silly jokes. And I remember when I was in school, the best day was when I made a joke and the class was laughing. And
of course.
And I made, that was when I was the happiest. So that's how the process is working. And I think this is not the only way to make this kind of work. And I'm not saying that sketchnoting is. I'm saying that for me this door was opened or got opened, and that there are many other doors. I think the key is is to try to give a bit more time to your passion, and then you don't know where it takes you, Mike. So who knows where it takes you? But just try new things and just follow that. I think that's what I want to say.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And I think what I take away from that too is that often we discount, like we talked about before, discounting what you're doing as being, oh, it's not important, nobody cares, blah, 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 whatever. Maybe to do more experimentation and trying things that you're curious about.
Yeah.
And doing, not just one thing, but maybe 5 different things, little experiments, and see which one really lights me up, that I'm excited about. And then if you like it, you keep on doing it, that might be the place where it goes. And I think the other thing too, to maybe consider, is you don't need, in your case, you got, approval from a publisher, right? The publisher was asking for stuff, you submitted not thinking, they don't care about me. And they came back and said, we like your stuff. And then they helped you pitch it. And now you got this deal. Like, that's one path.
Yeah.
You don't have to get approval from somebody else. You could just make it, right? That's the thing that I've learned in my life.
Well, I hope that you really enjoyed this collection of tips from this season. I look forward to you in the next season of the Sketchnote podcast, where we'll interview more interesting people, get to hear their perspectives and learn from them. Until next time, this is Mike Rohde. Talk to you soon. To support the creation of this show, I invite you to buy one of my books, the Sketchnote Handbook or the Sketchnote Workbook. You can find the books on Amazon, or go to peachpit.com and use the code ROHDE40 for 40% off. Please share this podcast with other visual thinking friends, and be sure to leave a nice rating on iTunes or your favorite podcast listening app so others can find the show.